listening to Lady-ish, where wellness gets unfiltered. This is the podcast where real talk meets whole self-transformation. I am your host, Autumn Noble O'Hanlon. I'm a coach, healer, author, and wellness guide, and I have created this unfiltered space for women who want more out of life, but on their own terms. Every week, we will dive into the messy, beautiful, and often contradictory layers of wellness, covering everything from career shifts and body image to energy healing, intuitive living, fitness, burnout recovery, and creating change that actually sticks. Whether you're chasing a new chapter, healing old wounds, or just trying to reconnect with yourself in a loud, overwhelming world, Lady-ish is here to support your evolution. You can expect honest conversations, coaching wisdom, holistic tools, spiritual insights, and permission to be a little bit of everything and nothing that you're not. Because wellness isn't one size fits all, and neither are you. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This weekend brings a really powerful celestial event, a super new moon. Whether you're someone who is deeply connected to the lunar cycles, or maybe someone who's just a little bit curious about how nature's rhythms can support our own growth and well-being, today's episode is an invitation to slow down, reflect, and intentionally create space for what's next. One of the things that I have really come to appreciate over the years is that any kind of transformation rarely happens through force, doing more, or trying harder. It doesn't happen because we hustle harder, set bigger goals, or push ourselves beyond our limits. Rather, real lasting transformation happens when we learn to work with natural cycles instead of against them. And that's exactly what I think the new moon really invites us to do. Because when I say natural cycles, yes, the natural cycles of nature, but also the natural cycles of our own selves, our own energetic cycles, cycles of our bodies, all of it has a unique rhythm that is very different from going hard 100% of the time. And that's why, for me, I really come to kind of honor and look to the cycles of the moon to help me reflect that notion. Today, we're talking about the significance of this super new moon, why so many cultures and traditions have honored lunar cycles for centuries, simple ways to work with this energy, and a few deeper rituals that, if you're feeling called to create a more meaningful experience this weekend, they're available for you as well in this episode. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's talk about the power of new beginnings. What is a super new moon? A new moon occurs when the moon sits between the earth and the sun, making it largely invisible from our perspective on earth. Energetically and symbolically, the new moon represents a blank slate, a new beginning, a fresh start. It's the darkest point in the lunar cycle, a pause before the moon starts to gradually begin to grow brighter again. A super new moon occurs when the moon is also near its closest point to Earth in its orbit. And so that's why this new moon is called a super new moon, is because the proximity of the moon to the Earth would, if we could see the moon, would make it appear larger. And that's any kind of a super moon is larger because of that close proximity. It's just a super new moon, so we can't see it, but it's larger than it would be otherwise if we could. Super moons are special because a lot of people believe that a super moon in that close proximity amplifies the energetic themes of the new moon, making it an especially potent time for intention setting, reflection, and creating change, and really taking a moment to decide, what do I want to do with this clean slate that is now beginning again? So whether or not you believe in the energetic impact of celestial events, there is something really powerful about creating intentional moments in our lives, and not just on New Year's Day. And again, that's why I love following the moon cycles, because every cycle gives us an opportunity to take stock, set intentions again, and maybe reevaluate whether or not those old intentions continue to align with what we're wanting. So the moon becomes a reminder, a checkpoint, a monthly opportunity to ask yourself, what is working? What is not working? What am I ready to release? And what am I ready to start creating more intentionally? So, why align yourself with the lunar cycles? One of the many reasons, as I've said, I love working with the seasonal and lunar cycles is because they remind us that growth is not linear. Nature does not operate in a straight line. There are periods of growth, there are periods of harvest, there are periods of rest, and periods of release. Yet a lot of us really expect ourselves to perform at maximum capacity every single day of the year. And those of you that have been listening to me for a long time, my background is as a corporate lawyer, and that was what I was taught and trained and understood, 110% every day, all day, 365. And it's not realistic. And I think anyone that has tried to live that way knows intuitively and also empirically that that's just not the best way to approach any kind of a goal. And so for me, the lunar cycles really embraces that notion and lets me have compassion for myself when I want those times of rest and I need those times of renewal and reset and maybe those times to harvest. The moon, through its cycles, sort of sets this different model and this different tone for living. Every month contains a complete cycle, beginning, building, evaluating, releasing, and then starting again. When we intentionally pause during these lunar transitions, we create opportunities to become more conscious of our lives. Instead of living on autopilot, we can start asking ourselves better questions and checking in and being more honest with ourselves. Instead of reacting to life, we make space to begin participating in it and choosing again or not. Is this my path? Is this my goal? Is this my intention? Is this who I want to be? The new moon specifically invites us into stillness and reflection, into possibility and space before action. And let's be honest, in a world that constantly tells us to do more and be more and want more, I think that there is a tremendous power in creating a moment just to simply listen and connect with yourself. As we think about this new moon, I try to embrace the fact that not everybody listening is kind of on the end of this kind of woo woo spectrum that maybe I am. And I have a whole ritual planned for myself privately tomorrow. But I want to make this work really accessible to everybody, no matter where you are in this journey. So I want to take a moment here to talk a little bit about just the psychology of clearing space. One of the reasons that new moon rituals often involve cleaning, decluttering, or organizing isn't because the universe cares whether or not your closet is tidy or your spices are organized. It's because our external environment influences our internal environment, our internal energy. When we clear physical clutter, we often create emotional clarity and space for insight. When we release items that we no longer use, we remind ourselves that it's okay to release identities, obligations, or expectations that just no longer fit us. If you think about the power of tidying up and the whole Marie Kondo movement, this idea that the things that we keep around either spark light and energy in us or bog us down. And so I was just cleaning one of my spaces and I had these shirts that are kind of cozy and soft and one I got from my husband and yeah, they feel good, but sometimes when I put them on, I feel like, like I'm totally just a scrub and I just kind of feel embarrassed if someone were to show up and like see me in this shirt. And I thought, I've got way cozier things that don't make me feel badly about myself. And I don't, that's neither here nor there. And I don't know what that's about. But the fact of the matter is, I had pieces in my closet that didn't make me feel good, that did not spark joy. And so letting them go without that guilt of like, I shouldn't let, I still wear them and there's nothing wrong with them. Like letting them go without that guilt and letting it be okay, I think is tremendously powerful. And it's a simple thing that we can all do to create space for something new. So think about it. How many things are sitting in your closet, your office, or even your garage that belong to a previous version of yourself? think about those things and ask yourself, how do I feel when I look at that, right? How do I feel when I look at that treadmill that never gets used? I'm not saying maybe throw out the treadmill, but maybe move it, maybe reorganize something, recreate the energy of that space so that maybe it does spark joy instead of guilt. But really asking, are there things in my space that are creating some kind of a subconscious drag or judgment? The new moon is really an opportunity to gently ask yourself, does that fit with who I'm becoming and who I want to be? And does my environment support that version of me? So here's some really simple ways to honor tomorrow's new moon. And you don't need crystals or special tools or really elaborate ceremonies. I love all of those things, but I'm trying to make this very accessible because some of the most powerful practices are really the simplest. It's more about your intention than the tools behind them. And I think the intention for this new moon is letting go of what's not working and clearing space to invite in what you do want in your life and maybe who you want to become or what you want to be different. The simplest way to approach this is what I'm doing today is washing my bedding. There's something deeply symbolic about sleeping in freshly washed sheets. It represents renewal and a fresh beginning, a reset. And as you make your bed, imagine yourself preparing a space for that new chapter. I know for me, anytime I make my bed again, I find a linen spray. For me, lavender is the scent that I prefer. It's calming and soothing, helps me sleep at night. But finding some way to ritualize making the bed and kind of setting those intentions of rest, restorative sleep, and reset in that space. Open the windows, even if only for just a few minutes, and allow that fresh air to circulate through your home as best as possible. As you do this, you can imagine stagnant energy leaving and fresh possibilities entering. Again, it's about the intention and the energy that you bring to these very simple exercises. Clean your windows if you're feeling so inclined. And this may sound really ordinary, but it is also incredibly symbolic if you let it be. It's about allowing yourself to see your life more clearly, to see your path forward with better clarity, and asking yourself, are there perspectives that I am carrying with me that are maybe ready to shift about who I am and how I see my world and maybe where I see my future going? Declutter your closet, releasing clothing that no longer fits your body or your lifestyle or even the person that you're becoming. And as you do that, offering gratitude for what has served you, but gently letting it go. Tidy those small everyday areas of your home, a desk, a drawer, a countertop. You don't have to clean your entire house. I want these to be very, very simple, but choose an area and restore order. And this is one I just engaged in. And now every time I walk out in my kitchen, I feel this breath of fresh air. I open the windows, I cleaned, I kind of tidied, I put some things away that have been lingering, and I cut fresh flowers and I put them around. And I pulled back all the curtains in the room to let in some light. And as I walk out there, it just feels fresh and new, like a new beginning. So it doesn't have to be big. It can be very simple. Take a salt bath. Imagine as you do this, the water washing away stress or overwhelm, resentment, or any emotional residue that's left over from the past month. This is also a ritual that you can take with you every day. And whenever you take a shower, you can imagine that water washing away that energy. And the same when you take a bath, like washing away any negative energy and anything that lingers from the day and allow it to sort of cleanse and renew your own energy in and around your body. Journal, one of my favorites. And as you journal, ask yourself, what am I ready to release? Is there something that I'm ready to welcome in? And my favorite is, what would I do in this cycle if I trusted myself more? If there was something that I was going to write on my blank slate for this month, if I let myself think big and dream harder, what would that thing be? And if I really trusted myself to go after it and achieve it, what would I do? And allow yourself to kind of journal and explore it. Your brain cannot create something that it can't first visualize. And so this is a really easy way to access that vision and ask yourself, like, What am I holding myself back from, essentially? Create a technology free evening. I know this is a challenge for a lot of us, but turn off the noise, skip the social media, and spend time with your own thoughts. If you're able, turn the lights low, the overhead lights, like just use natural light or candles, but allow the new moon energy to kind of subtly heal as things get quieter. And maybe this is something that you'll enjoy enough to incorporate into a weekly routine and kind of have that electronics or digital detox periodically. I know this is something that a lot of the professionals that I coach really struggle with. And so if as you're sort of enjoying the silence, maybe you're not enjoying the silence and your mind is racing and you're feeling guilt and shame and judgment for resting and relaxing, it's a beautiful space to grab that journal and get a better understanding of why we're so hard on ourselves when we take time to rest. Because there's a lot of coaching work that I do there, and it can really show us why it is hard for us to slow down. So utilize that technology free quiet space to maybe get to know yourself a little bit better and practice slowing down. For those of you wanting something a little bit more exciting and more of a new moon ritual that you can try on, here's something that's a bit more intentional and that you can try on tomorrow evening or anytime around the new moon. They say that when the moon changes its lunar cycle or there's big phases changing, that energy lasts a couple days. So don't feel like you have to do it immediately tonight or immediately tomorrow. Give yourself some space and compassion because, again, it's about the intention behind it. For this simple ritual, you're going to want a writing utensil, some pieces of paper, maybe a journal, and a candle. So begin by lighting the candle, finding a comfortable space to kind of disconnect and just settle in with your own thoughts and your body. So taking a few deep breaths there. And as you start to relax and feel comfortable in this space, gently place your hands over your heart and invite some reflection on the past month. And you might want to consider either mentally or you can write it down in your journal. What lessons did you learn this past month? What are you proud of? What are you ready to leave behind? And last, write down anything that you are ready or wanting to release. And this could be limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I can't do that. That's not right for me. This is just the way I am. Could be habits, fears, or patterns. And just take a moment to record those on a piece of paper. And then when you're ready, safely tear up that piece of paper. And if you're in a safe space, burn it. Next, write 3 intentions for this upcoming lunar cycle. And I don't want them to be goals. I want them to be intentions. How do you want to feel? Who do you want to become? What energy do you want to cultivate? Some examples may simply be I want to be more present. I want to expand my connection with nature and spend more time outside. I want to move more intentionally and more slowly and be more mindful. I want to connect with myself and my intuition. So those are the types of things I really want you to think about. In exploring those, consider how do you want to feel? Who do you want to become? And what kind of energy do you want to cultivate over these next few weeks? And then take this list and keep it somewhere visible where you can revisit it through the month. If it's in your journal, perhaps flag it so you can come back to it as you journal throughout the month, but allow it to remain with you to help you kind of reset and remember this space of intentionality leading into this new cycle. If you have more time and want to create a meaningful experience, consider a longer ritual. To do this, we begin by clearing your space. You may put on some calming music or light a candle, maybe a nice room spray or spread some oils around. And let's start with a really short meditation. You can use any number of guided meditations from my podcast or the internet, whatever feels right for you. But take a moment to engage in a few minutes of quiet meditation. Once your meditation is complete, just take a few minutes connecting with your breath and grounding into your body, kind of feeling the earth beneath you and imagining that deeper connection energetically between you and your body and the earth below you and around you, and just kind of imagining and visualizing that. Next, grab that journal and explore a couple prompts. What chapter of my life is concluding? What chapter is beginning? Where am I holding myself back? What would my future self encourage me to do next? Then we're going to create a vision page. If you want to make it even bigger, you can do a whole vision board, but I want to keep this simple, right? We're doing this just for the next lunar cycle. So just for the next few weeks. So on this vision page, I want you just to write words or phrases or intentions that represent the next version of yourself. Once you've started or maybe wrapped up the work on your vision page, I want you to read those intentions out loud and speak them as though they're already becoming reality. So, for example, one of my long-standing intentions is to create more connection with nature and make time for that and make time for being outside. So, at this point in the ritual, I might say, I have a strong connection with nature and I make time to be outside. And I say it as if it were already true. And we do this not because we're trying to, magically manifest something overnight, but because your nervous system responds to repetition, belief, and direction. And so we want to kind of tell our nervous system and our brain, this is who I am, which is going to make following through on actions in alignment with that vision so much easier. Once you stated and read all of your intentions aloud as if they've already become reality, just sit for a few quiet minutes, listening and paying attention to your breath and checking in with your body. As you relax in that space, just notice and note anything that arises, any insights that come up, anything that comes to mind, and maybe use your journal to explore it a little bit further. As we close today's episode, I want to leave you with a final thought. The moon does not force itself to become full overnight. It grows gradually and consistently and patiently. And imagine what our lives would be like if we allowed ourselves to grow and expand and achieve at that same kind of a slow, intentional pace. Your life is unfolding in much the same way. And I promise you, will unfold much more comfortably if we can embrace that spiritual principle of letting go and letting things to unfold in their own time instead of trying to force it. And that's where the lunar cycles again really invite us to slow down and grow consistently and patiently, much like the moon. We don't have to have everything figured out tomorrow, and we don't need a perfect plan. We also don't need certainty. What we simply need is willingness to continue again and to begin anew over and over and over again. And that's what the super new moon really offers as an invitation, a chance to clear space, to reconnect with yourself, to release what no longer serves you, and to plant seeds to begin again and see what comes next. Whatever practice you choose this weekend or tomorrow, remember that your intention and the energy that you bring to it matters more than perfection. So use this guidance I've offered here today as a loose sort of guideline and truly make it your own. Thank you so much for spending this time with me here today. I really hope that tomorrow's super new moon brings you some clarity, some peace, and maybe a renewed sense of possibility. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep becoming that person that you were always meant to be. And I hope that you find some space this weekend to relax and reflect on that and allow yourself to pace the evolution that's waiting for you.